Okay, let's see where we left off. Okay, so here we are now going to be entering into this section right here for sales process. So it's 10%, which is going to be approximately 5 questions. So once again, sales was a big chunk of the book, right? It was split into 2 chapters. We got chapter 3 and chapter 2, right? So you can expect that sales is going to be a huge part of the exam, okay? So a student should know, okay, what should or who should be listed in the customer center. Pretty straightforward. You guys already know who those people should be, okay? So then how to navigate using the customer center, right? How does the customer center look like? Pretty straightforward, right? It's gives you a pretty much overview of each customer, right? A little brief description above right here. You have the whole list of them, their account balances, and if you toggle this right here, it should be all transactions. So that person doesn't have any transactions, but if I were to click on this person, here we are. It gives you a list of the transactions, how to navigate most of the transactions that you can that involve with a customer can be dealt with either managed transactions. Okay. You also have new transactions at the top, or if you want more specified ones, if you right click, it gives you even a little bit more extensive list on what transactions you can do for each customer. So as far as navigating, pretty straightforward. We've been looking at the customer center for quite some time now. So as long as you're able to just recognize the platform and recognize what transactions are dealt with when you're dealing with the customer. So the more obvious ones are going to be with your managed transactions, right? You could create estimates, invoices, sales receipts, statements, okay? And you can receive a payment, okay? And also issue credit memos. So that is the primary ones that you want to make sure that you know in regards to navigating your customer center. Okay. So next question says how to complete the workflow from sales to making the deposits. Okay, 4. Okay, so example here, invoicing and the difference between that and sales receipts. So what this workflow is talking about is on the home page, right? When we take a look at the home page, come on. Okay, I'm just going this way. Home page. But we take a look at the home page. Let's take a look at this. How does it get from creating an invoice all the way to receive payment, all the way to making the deposits, right? That's what it's referring for, the workflow. So as far as that, that's pretty straightforward, right? When you create a invoice for a customer, you're essentially allowing them to owe you money. So here, how to complete the workflow from sales to making the deposit. Straightforward, right? You create an invoice, you're expected to receive a payment, and you must use the receive payments for QuickBooks to recognize that you are reducing accounts payable, accounts receivable, okay? So again, receive payments and then record deposits, okay? So when do you use an invoice?
When you're gonna bill the customer?
Okay. Okay, bill a customer. So what's the idea there? Are they paying at time of cert?
No, not when they buy it.
Okay, so they pay
Later.
after. Good. Pay after time of sale. Okay, when you intentionally want to bill your customer. Good. Okay, when do you use a sales receipt?
The minute they pay you,
Yes.
at the moment of the sale?
At time of sale. Okay, so these are your cash, credit card, check kind of people. Okay, and once again, once you do that, then the only option is you go straight away to receive. I'm sorry, record deposits. Okay. All right. All right, so the next question asks how QuickBooks uses the undeposited funds accounts, receivable, checking accounts in invoicing cycle. So once again, that's dealing on the previous question, right? How does it use it? So for example, right? When you get to the first transaction, which is, let's do an invoice, right? Invoice. Okay. In this case, right, the idea here is that you are recording a sale, so you're increasing your sales. You're increasing sales, which is known as an income account. And what happens is that you are increasing accounts receivable. Okay, which is your checking account. I'm sorry, which is your what do you call it? It's an asset. Okay. Then when you get to the receive payments window, what essentially happens here is that you are decreasing your accounts receivable, which is money that people owe you, and increasing your so in this case, your undeposited funds. It doesn't go to checking right away. Okay? Then when you record your deposits, okay, that's where you are decreasing your undeposited funds and increasing your checking account, which is your asset. Okay, that's pretty much what this question is asking. It's just making sure that you understand how this transaction flows in this way and how your accounts that are going to be affected. Okay. So the next question says how and why to record a customer credit. So let's talk about the why, and then we'll talk about the how. Why do you need to record a customer credit? Why do we need to record a customer credit?
Keep track for when they want to maybe use it.
Okay. Well,
And to help
why?
things balance, because if you're missing credits, if you go back to balance your book and the credit is not there, it's going to throw your numbers off.
Okay. So that's not what this question is asking. This question is asking you when you issue a customer credit. So meaning when you issue a credit memo. So in this case, that's what it's asking. Why do you issue a credit memo? Okay.
Because the customer didn't like what he got
So what are they doing?
or return something.
Returning merchandise. Good.
Mhm.
Okay. Return merchandise. What else? Okay. There's a small section in chapter 3. Okay. What else? Okay. If a customer returns a product, Cancellation, good. What else? Okay. If the customer overpays, maybe they just wrote you a check and said, here you go. Is that enough money? And they end up overpaying, then you issue them a credit memo. Okay. And what's the last thing, the one thing that's a big chunk, the major chunk of chapter 3 when we use a credit memo?
Discounts?
Not a discount.
Then like when they send you more items than you order.
Okay, over shipment of an item, you wouldn't necessarily use a credit memo because that's on your side if you overshipped them. But yeah, this is a little gray area. What was that?
To record a credit
Refunds.
on an account, a refund?
We already got the refund. Returning a merchandise is the refund. Okay. It was a huge chunk of chapter 3. It's the one thing I told you. What happens when a customer doesn't pay?
Bad debt.
Bad debt. That's exactly what you primarily, it means one of the primary things that you could use a credit memo for is to write off bad debt. Okay. Now, how do you issue a credit memo?
Refund credit button and create an invoice window?
Not in the create an invoice. Okay, I see what you mean. So if you go create an invoice, so you have to already have an invoice. You can't create the invoice. But if you go previous,
Select-
yes, you do have the.
And
Yes.
put the invoice number, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, you do have it right here. Okay. You have the refunds button here on the home page, right? If you go to the customers menu bar, you have a credit memo. Okay, so good. So, how? So you do home page, refunds, button. Okay.
Look for the invoice that you are gonna refund to.
Uh-huh. Select an invoice at top of invoice. Click on refunds / button. Customer center / menu bar. You have credit memo. Okay, good. Now, what happens when you do issue that? What are the options that you have? When you complete the credit memo, what are the options? There are 3 options that you can do with that credit memo.
Retain available credit.
Good.
Or apply to that invoice.
Good. Retain as available credit. So meaning if the customer chooses that, that means the next time that they make a purchase, that credit goes against their invoice. Okay. What else? And you said apply to good. Apply to invoice or give a refund. Good. Okay, good. Next question. How and why to create statements? Let's talk about how, or let's talk about why. Why do we create statements?
To check the balances on the end of the month for each customer.
Good. To send customers their account balances and list of transactions that they have with you. Okay, so Any invoice outstanding balances, receive payments, etc. Okay, good. Okay, how do we create a customer statement?
From the homepage,
You could do homepage. Where else?
Customers,
You could do the customers menu bar. Good.
no, customers,
Well, sorry, customers. Yes, you can.
and then you can create it right there.
Mm-hmm.
create statements.
Mm-hmm. If you go to the customer center, right? Oop, there it is. Okay, customer center, right? You can right click and create a statement. You can manage transactions and create a statement. Or yes. And yes. Good. Yes. How you could do home page, icon, menu bar, customer center. Okay. Good. Now the question is how to handle bounced checks. Okay. Do you guys remember that one? How do you handle a bounced check? There's only one way you can enter in a bounced check. Okay. Okay, I'll give you the first hint. You need to be in the receive payments window, right? But obviously, you need to make sure that you have the transaction to begin with. So in this case, oh, it looks like I don't have any. I don't have any. So great. But what's at the top of the window? Right now it's gray, but if you did record a customer payment, how would you record it? So I guess I could take an invoice and just say they paid it with a check. Oh, hit the wrong one. Okay, so if I were to go ahead and create that invoice, right, and I go previous and say they did make a payment, okay, receive payment, okay, all right, I'm just gonna say this was a check, and I'm gonna say check number like that, okay, and I'm just gonna go ahead and click next, save and close. Okay. Oh, that's right. I locked my details. Password is, what was it? Capital A.
ABC 1234.
There you go. And then now if I were to go ahead and go to my receive payments window and I pulled up that last thing, where can I record a bounce check? Where can I record?
Up there on your, it's up there on your window.
Correct. So up here,
Or bouncy check.
Third
Re-
bounce checks.
good. And then what happens here? So I have to type in the password once again.
Password again.
Yeah, it's because I password protected it. ABC 1234. Okay, won't let me do it. But when you do get that window, one of the few things that's going to ask you is how much did the bank charge you? And the next thing is going to be how much are you going to charge your customer for? So you have to be on the receive payments window.
And then your bounce check summary.
Bounced check button at top of window, and once again it will ask you what the bank charged you, and what you are going to charge your customer. Okay, pretty easy, straightforward. Okay, so that section was all dealing with sales. Okay. Next section we have here is dealing with purchases. So let me go ahead and turn on my purchases real quick so I can show you what else we can do. So let me go to my edit. Oop, hit the wrong one once again. Edit preferences. Okay, go to items and inventory. Click on company. Yes. Okay. Okay. Back to the home page. So here we go. We have the whole purchases window at the top of transaction right there. So first things first is who should be listed on the vendor center. Pretty straightforward. We already know, right? So the same thing's going to ask you for this, how to navigate the vendor center. If you can navigate this customer center, you could very well navigate the vendor center. The only thing is the differences between them is the transactions. Okay, because when you're dealing with a vendor, you can purchase from them, you can receive bills from them, etc., etc. Okay. So then here's the different workflows for making a purchase. So again, when we do purchases, right, this is geared towards using your inventory. Okay. Making purchases of inventory. Okay. So once again, when we enter in or paying bills or writing checks, right? Those are the different ways that you can do the different workflows of making purchases. Okay. So again, we learned that you can just go to the store and pay up front for the purchases of inventory, or you could use a purchase order, which allows you to also do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and enter here. So enter in and paying the bills. So we talked about that, right? You can enter the bill, but if you enter in a bill, you must use receive payments. I'm sorry. No, bill payment. Okay. You must use that. Writing checks is pretty standard, right? If you go to the store, right, you can pretty much write a check, right, using the Intuit's check, or you can actually write a manual check. So you can, if you are walking around with an actual physical check, you can use the write a checks window to either write a manual check or Intuit's check or company check. Okay, and again, you can use that for you can also use that for any electronic funds transfers or a debit card. Okay, using credit cards, right? How do we do that? You have the option at the bottom of your banking on the home page, right? Or you could do the banking menu, and you could go ahead and enter credit card charges. Okay. And then using your debit card. So like I've mentioned before, you can use the write checks option, or you can enter it directly into the checking window. So, or checking register. So if you remember, right, every register that you have in QuickBooks, you're able to enter the transaction right then from there. So you're not obligated to have to do the writing checks. You can go to your checking account, right? And here, right, that's the very first thing that we got to take a look at in chapter 4 is that we can enter in the date, enter in the transaction, and enter the amount, and it will automatically do the calculation for you. And this is where you can enter in right here, right? It says number at the top. If you don't want a number, you can enter in debit, right? Or you can enter in EFT, right? So if I want to use a debit card transaction, I just record it like that, right into there. Okay, so those are it. Okay, how to record the transaction using the purchase workflow. So we talked about purchase orders, right? When we um, request to purchase items from a vendor, right? What comes after that when we go ahead and request items from a vendor? After we submit the purchase order, what happens? What's the... Yes, we're going to receive our inventory. Okay? Receive inventory. However, we talked about this too. Receiving inventory splits into two ways. You can either receive with a bill or you can receive without a bill. Okay? When we receive with the bill, what happens? We enter in billing information, right? It creates a bill essentially. Okay? What happens when we receive without a bill? Okay? Also known as when you receive a packaging slip. What happens there? Okay?
Payable?
It's not a payable. Okay? So what happens when we receive items without a bill? So we already know the first one, right? If you receive with the bill, it's going to automatically be a bill. What's the other option? This is chapter 8. Okay. What happens when I receive a packaging slip? What do I get? Okay. When you receive an items without a bill, or also known as a packaging slip, you're going to get what's called an item receipt. Okay. Okay. And that is where you can record however many items that you have, however many items you're pending on, etc., right? Or in most cases, you might receive all the items, but the bill comes to you later. Okay. Now, if you have an item receipt, the next step is that you're going to be mandated to enter bill against inventory. Or I think that's what it says. Enter bill against. Let's see what it says.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yes, enter bill against inventory, where what happens there is you're essentially going to convert your items receipt into bills. Okay. So that's the workflow here. If you do end up receiving items without a bill, you get an item receipt, and then you're going to enter in the bill against inventory which allows you to convert your items receipt into bills. Okay, so that's one. That's the work. That's the workflow. What happens when you receive items? You have two options, and from there, then that's where you have the option to have to do the rest of them. Okay. Let's see what's next here. How and why to record a vendor credit. Okay. Let's talk about the why first. Why would you want to receive a vendor credit? Okay, so think of how a customer credit works.
Well, yeah, like if you returned an item, you know, it was broken or something that you got from a shipment.
Could return an item to a vendor. Okay.
Or when they give you the 30 days or less to pay, they give you.
Yes,
this is the
terms.
mechanism.
Good, terms. So you're supposed to receive the discount. Good, excellent. Okay. So mostly for this one, you can't use it as a
Where you
bad
do
debt.
overpay.
Yes, overpay. And this is where, Nathan, if you get an overshipment. Okay. So how do we create a vendor credit? So this is the tricky one, but it's also the easiest one. Okay. I'll give you a hint for how to create your credit. You can't just go up to vendors menu and create a credit, a vendor credit. It is if I click on enter bill. So any way, every single way that you can enter a bill, you have the option at the very top to create a credit. Okay. So that one's the tricky one, right? Because you need to know that that's the hidden feature. But it's easy because instead of memorizing all the way, like a separate way to enter in all of those ways, as long as you know how to enter in a bill, so every way that you can enter a bill, whether it's the homepage icon bar, menu bar, vendor center, bill tracker, whatever it is, right? As long as you can enter the bill, you're able to enter in a credit. So every way you can enter a bill. Okay. So that's that one right there. Okay. All right, how to complete the inventory workflow. So we already talked about this, so that one's up there. Okay. How to set up, collect, and pay sales tax. Okay, so we got to take a look at this in chapter 2 as well as chapter 4. Okay, more primarily towards in chapter 2. Okay, there's a small section in chapter 2 where you're dealing with sales tax, how to set up sales tax, how to collect the sales tax, and how to pay the sales tax. All of that is chapter 3. Excuse me, not 2. 3. Okay. So if you guys remember, how do we set up our sales tax?
Homepage, manage sales tax.
Yes, homepage, manage sales tax. So if I click on that, right, you're going to get the window here to set up your sales tax. Did I hit the wrong one? I think I hit the wrong one. Manage sales tax. There you go. So if I were to go ahead and set it up, what happens here? It takes me to the edit preferences under sales tax window. Okay. So, yes, to set up / collect. All right, well, to set up is pretty straightforward, right? You go to manage sales tax on homepage, which will take you directly to the edit preferences sales tax, okay, window. Okay. How do you collect sales tax? How do you collect sales tax? Or in this case, what I'm asking is, how do you place it onto the sales receipt for you to collect the sales tax? Okay.
Well, you would go to what? Create sales receipts.
Create sales receipt. Create sales receipt, okay.
And then you can select, it gives you an option on the receipt there to select the tax
Okay.
profile.
Okay.
Or
Now, what are these called?
sales tax items.
Sales tax items. Yes, in order to collect them, you need to create a sales tax item, right? And where do you create that? How do you create a sales tax item?
In a sales tax preference.
No,
No.
we're talking about creating it.
Oh, creating it.
Yep.
An item list under customers.
Not customers,
Vendors.
Vendor.
not vendors,
Would be company
not company.
items. No.
Oh, wow.
Where do we have a list of all of the things that are dealing with
On
sales?
your list,
What kind of list?
Sales
right there
tax
on the
code.
menu bar,
Okay, so list. Okay, but okay, what list? Which
Sales tax.
there, sales tax,
that's sales tax code. So remember, that's how you could differentiate which groups of individuals get taxed. So that's different. Come on, guys.
Would be an item list.
It would be an items list.
Yeah.
Yes, an item list, and you would create a new one, and it'd be under a sales tax item or sales tax group item, depending, because once again, we talked over this in chapter 4 as well as chapter 2. It depends on where you do your business. It depends on the state, and it depends on your local agency. So,
Also, you could go under customers and then go to item list on the menu bar.
let me see. Customers.
Same item list.
Let me see. Items list. Okay, I guess it takes you to the same place. Okay, I guess you can do that. Yes, because it does take you to the item list. But essentially, the idea is it's just item list. Yeah, the end result is that you just have to get to the item list and create your item list. So, good.
There's a half a dozen different ways to get there.
Yes, there's that one, and you can also do that also too. Another hidden one is if you go to the vendors and you go to inventory items, you can create a new item there. So that's another hidden one. So if you guys have the 2018 version of QuickBooks, you guys have an inventory center, you can create your items there too. But yes, the main idea I was trying to get at is just the items list itself. But good, excellent. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and write items list. Good, that's how you collect it. How do you pay your sales tax? Okay. How do you pay your sales tax?
Under manage sales tax, there's a button that says pay sales tax.
Correct. Okay. You could also do that through your menu bar too. You have, if you go to, let me see, your vendors, and you click on sales tax, you can also pay your sales tax that way too. Okay, don't forget, that was one of the ways I taught you to in chapter 3. But yes, the idea is to go to your manage sales tax, and you have the button that says pay your sales tax. Excellent. Okay, so how do you pay? Okay, no other way. You have to go through that. You can't just write a simple check to the agency because it will not make a connection between your sales tax that you've collected. It will just be sending them a random check. Okay. And last but not least, what about a bank reconciliation? This is chapter 5. So as long as you know the key components here, right? As long as you know that the first thing that you need to know is that it's an adjustment entry. Okay, so therefore, it happens at, the end of every month. Okay, because that's what happens when you collect your bank statement. Because your bank statement is going to give you your monthly statements, or a list of all the transactions. So that's one thing, is that you need to make sure that you have your bank statement. And also, before you start the bank reconciliation, right? Did I have reconciliation? Make sure the beginning balance in your checking account matches your beginning balance on your bank statement. That is, you have to make sure that's a rule of thumb. That is going to be one of those in the boxes in the chapter reading for chapter 5. So make sure you read chapter 5 for this section here. How to complete it is pretty straightforward, right? Click that reconcile button and go for it. Okay. Let me see how much more we have left. Okay, so we might need to extend tomorrow, but we'll try to answer as many as we can. Okay. So for the bank reconciliation, I'm going to go ahead and make a note here for you guys. So I will be posting these answers on the Google Classroom. So you guys will have this copy, and you guys can add to it, delete any information. So for any sections I left blank, go ahead and add your own notes to it, or you can have this as a copy for yourself. You can print it out as a study guide for you to try to formulate questions that can potentially revolve around them. So yes. So here for the note here that I'm going to have for the bank reconciliation is how. Okay? How do you do it? Right? So, yes. All right. Next section we have is payroll. So a student should know, all right, the difference between payroll services that are available on QuickBooks. So once again, chapter 10/11 should give you what the options are. What were the 3 options that you have available as a payroll services using the Intuit services? Okay. Okay. Your payroll service options. Okay. What are they? What are the 3 payroll service options?
Basic,
Basic. Good.
enhanced,
enhanced,
and full service.
yes. Okay. According to 2018, you guys have as full service. Okay. 2019, they changed it. Now it's assisted. So, but since you guys are certifying for the 2018, you need to know basic, enhanced, and full service. Okay. And each one is going to be based on the levels of payroll, the people that you need to involve in. But just know that you have to have, if you're using basic, you cannot file your forms. Okay? Just a piece of information there. Anything above basic can file your forms for you. Okay? All right. How to set up payroll, including employees, federal and state taxes, and basic payroll deductions. Okay, using the payroll setup wizard. Okay, so let's see what it breaks up down to. How to set up an employee's earnings and sick vacation pay, and how to track sick or vacation time using the enter. Okay, so a few things that we have here. So if it's a mouthful here. So we talked about using the payroll setup wizard, right? That was the whole questionnaire. So it was similar to setting up your company file. So with that being said, there is that one page in chapter 10. Okay? So chapter 10, there's that whole little
The payroll setup checklist,
correct. Yes, what page is that?
292.
Okay? So right here, page 292, all right, is going to tell you how to set it up. Now in this case, let's say you want to manually set it up, right? It gives you the steps on how to do that as well, right? When we go through chapter 10, there are two things you need to do before you go ahead and start the setup wizard. And that is you need to create the account first. So create account. Okay? First. Okay? All right. Then the next step is if you need to create your items, right? So as we go through the wizard should help you create your payroll items. However, we do have a set of some of them because if you create the items themselves, you can link them to the agencies that you're making payments to. So that's one way that you could set that up too. Just make sure that you first have to do is set up your accounts, then set up any payroll items, and then set up any vendors that are associated with paying your taxes. So again, all of those are Form 940 and 941. Okay. So again, when you do the wizard, right, you're essentially setting up your payroll items, which allows you to set up your benefits, compensations, deductions, etc., right? So if you guys remember from that, right, it helps you set up your employee earnings, which is your compensations, your sick or vacation pay, any benefits, such as 401k plans, okay, your Medicare or medical insurance. We talked about that, right? Whether it's health, vision, or dental. And I believe there's life in there too. You need life insurance, okay? We talked about all of those in the wizard, Okay, in your book gives you an example of how to create it and what necessary steps that you need to have. Okay. Other than that, there's other deductions such as meals, right? If you offer meals, fringe benefits, etc., etc. If you have sick or vacation pay, that goes towards your compensation, right? We talked about commissions. We talked about vacation and sick pay. Now, how do we record that and collect that information is pretty straightforward. How do we do that? Okay, you have two options, right? When you set up your payroll items, okay,
Or the payroll setup interview.
when you set that up, right, and you're gonna make your payment to your employee, right, you can just enter the time on the pay employees window. Okay, you can also set up if your employees want to use it, you could set up the enter time, or also known as the timesheet. Right? You can have that recorded, and then you can pay your employees because it's going to transfer the information automatically over, and it's going to collect information from there, from that table. So you have those two options. Okay, if you want your employees to set up to turn it as or submit a timesheet, you could go ahead and do that, or you can manually enter in to record the vacation and sick time directly on the pay employees window. Okay, so remember, you could select what times or how many hours they've collected. Okay, so that's on the pay employees window. So let me see if I could be able to do that. I click on pay my employees. Here it is. If I click on Katie Reynolds, okay, can I not do it? Come on. I don't think it says, okay, hold on. You can only view. Oh, okay. Okay, I can only view it. I can't edit it. Okay, well, it won't let me view it. But on that window, right, when you adjust their times and stuff, you get to see their options of all the payroll items that they're being taxed for, all the deductions such as the Medicare, the medical, and the 401k. At the very top, you can adjust the hours accordingly. You could say that they earned 80 hours doing salary, or they earned 5 hours doing sick pay. As long as you set up the payroll items first, there you on the actual pay employees window, you can enter in what their times are. Okay. All right. How and why to set up payroll schedules. Okay. We talked about the how, right? You just simply schedule them either as a bi-weekly or whatever. You could do that through the employee. I think it's. Let's see. Forgot what that window is called. I think it's called employee management. Manage employees' information, right? If you click on this, you have, oh, there you go, employee defaults. You can set them up by scheduling it through the employee defaults. Okay. And why? Well, why do we need to set them up? Why is it so important to use a payroll scheduler? Okay. This isn't a trick question. Okay. Okay. Why do we need to schedule or use the payroll scheduler?
track? And, you do it weekly or bi-weekly or?
Correct. Okay. Why? To help you remember, to help you or remind to make payments to employees and or liabilities, right, that are on different pay schedules. Okay, so if one person is being paid bi-weekly because of their hourly regular, right? And then you have a set of employees that are salary based, which typically usually get their checks on the 15th and the 30th, right? That is why you would use the payroll scheduler. You could also use the payroll scheduler to schedule your liabilities, right? If I have one that's being collected every week and the other one's being collected every month, you would use the payroll scheduler. And how do you do that? You could do that by setting it up in your preferences, or you can use your employee defaults. So right there, right? You can select the pay frequency options. Okay, and that's how you set up that. Okay. How to run payroll. Pretty straightforward, right? We took an example. This is both chapter. Okay, so in this class, I showed you how to do manual payroll, and I showed you how to use an automated system. So in this case, the book only wants you to strictly know how to do automated. So automated is basically using the payroll system that they provided. Automated payroll services or slash system. Okay, so the one that I taught you was manual is only if you choose to do a manual payroll system. But the book is going to test you, and it's going to test you on what you've learned through the book, not what I teach you extra. So they want you to know how to run the payroll, which is pretty straightforward, right? How do you pay your employees? How do you pay your liabilities? How do you pay or submit your forms? Okay? So pretty straightforward, right? You have options when you're either on the payroll center or even on the homepage, right? How to pay your employees, right? You simple, click pay employees, and all the calculation does for you. Okay? How to pay your liabilities? You just click pay liabilities. And then how do you file your forms? You click on file your forms. Now, again, this is only for QuickBooks that uses the payroll services such as enhanced or full services. In this book, we only got to take a look at the basic version of payroll. So again, this is definitely something you may have to read in your books because this is a theoretical one because we don't have the full service or enhanced in the book. It doesn't show you that, so this is you have to read it. So this is theoretical, but you would just click on file forms. Okay, straightforward. Last but not least, track time and for payroll for invoicing customers. So, right? How do we track time? So let's go ahead and do the how. How do we track time?
Enter time.
Enter time. You could do it here or you could do it through the employees menu. You can enter the time there too. but you need to activate it first. So how? Enter time on home page or menu bar. Okay. Now, when you do that, what are your options when you can enter in your time? You could choose to.
Weekly timesheet or single.
Okay. So you could either enter it in one day at a time or you could do it on a weekly scale. Okay. They only have the enter in once a time in case your job entails more than you're just an admin. Okay. If you're having to do this job, this job, this job, this job on one single day, that's exactly what that one is used for. Okay. Weekly or what does it say? Every or day or per day. Okay. Okay. So with that, now we have two options, right? We have one that you can keep track for your employees, and we have one that you can bill your customers for. So, what's the difference between the two? Okay. If you're keeping track for your employees, what are you doing that? What's that for? Okay. This one's kind of straightforward, right? If I'm filling it out for my employees, right? For any hourly or even salary, right? Salary people can also record their hours as well. To record hours completed for the job, right? What do we use billing the time for to our customers? How do we use that for? This is chapter 9. Okay. When we talk about billing customers, right? It's if they want a specific person to do the job. Okay? So let's say Bob Mason or Maria Cruz, right? They want specifically this person to do the job. So what they're going to do is they can record the time that they invested for this particular job, and they can pass the bill along to the customer. So then the customer pays for their time that they invested for the project. So that's one way of looking at it, okay? Is that if a customer wants a specific person to complete a job, okay, you can record the hours and pass the bill along to the customer to have them pay for the service. Okay, so once again, if you want more details into it, this is chapter 9. Okay, so let me see how many more sections we have. We have 1, 2, 3 more sections. So let's try to finish up the next section, and then tomorrow we'll finish it off, and then we'll do whatever you guys want to do for review. Okay, so let's finish up maybe a couple more questions, and then we can go forth on our day. So here, chapter 6, all about reports. Okay, a student should know why and how to use the report center. So I've mentioned this in chapter 6, right? If you go to the report center, right, whether it's on the icon bar, or you can go straight up to the reports and click on the report center. So once again, I showed you an overview of the reports, right? You could choose carousel view, you can choose grid view, or you could choose a list. So in this case, right now I have grid view, so it gives me a little overview of what the report should look like, right? Give you a little sample file, and it tells you what criteria you can list it as. It also gives you like a piece of information if you need to know what it's about. You could click on the info here. You could choose it as a favorite. You can run the report, right? Okay. So once again, that is the overview of this. Now, the report center, right? I'm going to mention this once and again, okay, for the millionth time. Reports are only important depending on the position you are in the company. So if you're a sales representative, your reports will be all dealing with your customers and your sales. If you're the inventory manager, you're going to be dealing with your purchases and inventory itself, possibly the vendors as well, because you are contacting those people. If you're in charge of the employees, obviously your employee contact list is important. Keeping track of their time, making sure that they submit those time, submit the reports, keeping track of the payments that you've made to your employees, right? So once again, how and why we use the report center is pretty straightforward, right? Okay. And the question next is how to customize your reports. So we talked about this. How do you customize a report? Once again, all of this is going to be for reports is chapter 6. Okay. We talked about how to customize a report. How do you customize a report? Anybody?
That's when you do the graph.
Okay, so not for a graph. Go ahead, Dan.
From the report center, when you go to create a report.
You could do that if you'd like,
There's a
but that's not
customized
how you
report.
customize. That's not how you customize. You're creating one. So in this case, I want to customize one. So I'll give you the biggest hint. Okay, the biggest.
Menu bar, isn't it? You go to favorites. No.
No. Okay. So the biggest hint is I'm going to go ahead and run a report. Okay. Okay. That's the biggest hint. I'm going to run a report.
Yeah, when you're running the report, it pulls it up, and on the top there's a button that says Customize Report.
Perfect. And when I click on that, what can I customize?
Depending on what kind of report you're making.
Correct.
Font, the numbers.
You can,
Like the dates, the reporting, I mean, depending, yeah, you know, reporting basis, the different columns, sub-columns, all kinds of different things.
absolutely. So here
Sorting order.
you can customize the color, you can customize the fonts, you can customize how the report you want the information that you want to display. Absolutely. Yep, you could do that. So in this case, my column doesn't have much, so there's not much I can select. But yes, you can choose like what options you want to add in there. So here, I want to add all of these people or all of these headings. I can change the font and formatting of them, how it looks, right? So that's very important for, especially if you're running your reports. You want to make sure that you use your company colors. to make it unique to the company. Again, the only thing you can't do is change the width and sizing of it, of the columns and stuff. You can only choose what you want to appear on there, but that's about it. You can't do anything before that. But yes, you can change the fonts and colors. You can change what kind of headers you have. Do you want to have a company name? You should have your company name, the report name, etc., etc. So that's what you have to do first. Is you have to initiate, okay, a report. You have to create, not create the report, but you have to run a report first, and then at the top of the window, okay, top of window, click on customize, and from there you can customize, right, the headers, the font. You can customize the font and colors. You can also customize the columns on what appears, okay, and so on and so forth. Okay. The basic questions that each report answers. So once again, this is going to be depending on what position you are. So I gave you many examples of that. And let's see what the next question. So how and why to send reports to Excel. Okay. So what's so important about being able to send it through to either PDF or Excel?
On Excel, you can do more customizing if you do want, because you are very limited on QuickBooks.
Correct. So more modification slash customization. With Excel. What else? You can also send these reports to,
Via email.
yeah, via email.
Yes.
Via email, PDF, and so you can send it to anybody such as your accountant, upper management, etc., etc. So, yes, excellent. Okay. Let's go ahead and answer the last two questions, and we'll go ahead and call it for the rest of the day. Okay. How and why to process multiple reports. Okay, so that could be in a sense where you're processing multiple reports either via accrual basis reports or cash basis reports. I think it's basis. Okay. So why should you process multiple reports? Okay, I already gave you one example to compare versus accrual versus cash, how much cash is actually flowing into your company. But what else?
For inventory purposes.
Okay, inventory purposes, probably not. Okay, but I feel like you're getting onto.
Like you need to know where you're standing. Like, I mean, you need to, like, what you saw and what you got coming, or where you're running low.
Good. So by processing more or multiple reports, you are gathering basically more information, right? More information, and maybe you're using the reports, right? The multiple reports that you have, you can get more perspective.
Yeah, you can get your balances where you're standing.
Exactly. Prospective. Okay. So again, more reports will help you gather more information to answer the question that you need to answer. All right. Last but not least, because we still have the next two sections that we'll talk about tomorrow, is going to be how and why do we need to memorize our reports? So we did talk about this in chapter 6. What's so important about memorizing reports? So let's talk about why first, and then we'll talk about the how after. So why is it so important to memorize reports?
You can group them when they
Group.
are similar.
Okay, I would say no to that answer.
Okay.
Well, those are the ones that you would use the most, right? The ones that are memorized.
Correct. Okay. Use the most. Okay. Okay. Another one could be when after you customize it. Let's say you decked it out with all the company colors and whatnot, and you choose to memorize that report. You can reproduce the same report and save all the changes. So in this case, use the most. Cut already customized settings, right? Reports. Okay. Okay. Maybe it's just when you set them up in your favorites or in your memorized reports, you can find them easier instead of having to go through the whole list. Okay. And last but not least, how? How do you memorize a report? How do you
You run
memorize?
it. There's a button right at the top there to memorize.
Correct. So if you do plan on customizing it, they always recommend after you customize it, click on memorize, and then it will save everything in the report center under the memorized reports. Okay, so good. So in this case, how is going to be you run the report. Okay, you can choose to customize first and then memorize at the top of the window. Okay. And I was going to say to find memorized reports will be located in the report center under the memorized tab. Okay, so good, excellent. All right. So once again, I will post this tomorrow when we finish up and completing the whole entire thing. So we have 2 more sections that we have to go over tomorrow. I want to make sure that we answer through this whole entire thing. Yeah, any questions after?